Smooth 98.1 Love Music, Love Life. You're very welcome to today's edition of Freshly Pressed 981. I'm Ayo Myro Essay.
And my name is Valentino. Who? Good morning.
And this is where we bring you detailed analysis of the day's national news headline stories. Joining us to analyze the stories, we have Divo Okore. Good morning, Divo. How are you today?
Good morning, Lagos. Morning, I have
Good morning.
Itayo. Cool. Pay our doctors.
All right. And we have Oyeyemi Emmanuel. Morning, Oyeyemi. How are
Good
you
morning,
today?
good morning, Val. Good
Good
morning,
morning.
Lagos. Good
Thank you
morning.
so much for joining us.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Now, if you'd like to join the conversation, you can do so by watching us on YouTube. We're live, youtube.com/smooth981 FM Lagos.
Yes, you can send messages through WhatsApp 0809 444 0981. I'll start with you, Divo, on this story from the Guardian newspaper. Lagos State government to divert traffic at Marina for rail projects that will last for 7 months. What are your thoughts on this and your optimism level for, the timeline for completion?
Mm. Well, seems the heat around traffic is about to step up as much as it is inside the studio. But the truth is, this is an announcement just to inform Lagosians, all of us, about what is about to happen for the next 7 months between the National Theatre and the Marina access of the state. And state government is saying that they will create a diversion, all right, to assist the Blue Line rail project construction and completion. So hopefully this is meant to commence next Monday, actually. Traffic motorists as well as those passing those routes, which is one of the heaviest routes within the country, because practically in Lagos is defined by all roads face the island in the morning, and then in the evening everybody faces back. Now this they've said that a traffic management plan is being put in place to address safety concerns for both motorists as well as the construction personnel. Now, it will start at the right hand of the road for about 3.5 months and then conclude on the other half of the road, that's the left hand side, for about 4 months. Traffic signs and barriers would be put up to guide uh, motorists. Now, Lagos State government would have last month officials on ground to also assist. And they said that the long sacrifice, which will last about 7 months, will yield for an effective and robust infrastructure to meet the teeming population. And what population are we referring to? Lagos has roughly about 20 million people with about 5 million visitors. But my question here is, whilst this is being put in place, how well are we optimizing alternative routes? Because we know that zone has few streets. I mean, apart from the diversion into broad streets, you have from Costain into, you can get into Echo Bridge. How many other diversions do we
Diversions.
have? We suffered the completion of the third mainland for another, recently
But
for about
arguably, the
6 to 8 months.
thank you for making that reference. Arguably, that diversion was effective, wasn't it? I mean, given the number of cars and the population we have in Lagos, we understand that the roads are not enough. Hence, the
Yes, it
conversation
depends on
around
what you refer to
alternatives.
as effective. Because what happened was many people had to literally stop coming to the island. People
And
had to
started
look
carpooling.
carpooling or even doing work from home, meaning
Yes.
that only on certain days would I be on the island because of
Right.
the traffic,
Right.
leaving early, not having meetings on time. So it did affect our economy. So that's why I'm asking, what other forms, like the ocean economy, have we optimized that so that people can find other routes? I mean, those who live in from Hinterland, that's Ikorodu and down, how did they get to land? What do they have to suffer?
From first person perspective, I've spoken to a few people that
Mm.
have been using the boats, and they said the services have been quite efficient.
They're efficient, but they're not adequate.
Yes,
Yes.
adequacy is
To town
definitely.
planning and security, with all these diversions, hoodlums, especially in these times of insecurity, take advantage. So these are all the things you don't want to be caught in that
Yes,
traffic
unawares.
with your
Yeah.
So,
family. And then you know how it is. Even in Lagos, if there's no security, they will rob you in the midst of every other person, and everybody will be looking.
so that's an important aspect as well. It
Mm.
is not enough to divert people through different
Right.
routes. Also provide security on those routes. Yeah.
Absolutely. Tayo Famaja is actually more concerned about drainage. He says they should, whilst they're fixing the railway, they shouldn't abandon drainage. Please let them remember to fix the drainage. I think there was drainage work going on around Lagos. Unfortunately, it wasn't done in time for
For
this
the
year's
rain.
floods. Yeah, for
Is
the
it
rain,
ever?
and it's not exactly.
I
So
remember the warning we got for September, this September
yes,
of the
yes,
heavy
that it's
rain.
about
floods.
to get even
Yeah.
worse. We haven't had what we had in August. It was July actually.
Yeah, it's July.
July, yeah, because we're just going to August.
Mm.
July was an interesting month for rainfall.
Yeah.
However, like we've mentioned, they keep doing the work. Traffic gets being disrupted because they're saying they're working on the drainages, but like Devo mentioned, it hasn't yet come to fruition in terms of it being in time for. So we wonder when that would be done. So thank you, Tayo, for highlighting that.
July could as well be the dress rehearsal. So just hope it's not as bad.
I hope not.
Well, the second story, it's so nice to have you in the studio today again as a legal luminary. Let's speak about your senior colleague, human rights lawyer, Mr. Femi Falana's son. He is demanded for the prosecution of 400 sponsors of terrorism reported to have been arrested by the federal government some months ago. Remember, I think around May 4th, 2021 was when it was advertised that the federal government had arrested, but no prosecution, no information further. I like that he asked these questions, but what to say should be expected from this request?
Well, first we need to really appreciate Femi Falana-san because he seems to be the one who's checking the heartbeat of justice every time.
Him and Sarah.
Yes, and not yes. You know, he's at least and he's been consistent for a long time.
Yes.
To be honest, the current management of the entire security, Boko Haram crisis, terrorism crisis, and all of that, it's a bad trend or trail that has been left, you know, and there's just a lot that has been dropped off the table.
Yes.
There's no management. There seems to be no strategy, right? How you put it in the news that sponsors of, because this is not terrorists, right? This is sponsors of terrorism, and this is actually a very critical part of the conversation because we've had a lot of conspiracy theory around who's sponsoring, how are the terrorists getting significant funding for the kind of weaponry that they use, the kind of artillery that they have, and how are they weaponing our own soldiers. So the financing has always been a question. And if the government has as many as 400 people that are under suspicion, you would expect that they would prioritize that,
Because
right?
that's information
Because
that's
that's the
vital to
only
ending the
natural
insurgency
thing.
as soon as
Exactly.
possible,
If
right?
you curb the funding, then you've curbed you've
cut off the
cut
source.
off the source,
Yeah.
right? So one would think that every single other, I mean, well, you would say that you would need some form of clandestine action to prevent people from, you know, bailing or all of that. But there should be some traction. It's a conversation. I like to go back to this point. Governance is a conversation. If if we really want to move forward in Nigeria, our authorities across the board must understand that governance is a conversation. If you start it, continue.
Yes.
If you continue, if you should give updates. We don't need Mr. Femi Falana-san to be reminding. I mean, thank God there's a Freedom of Information Act that we can even demand things under. But
Exactly.
has
And
it
th-
even
and
worked?
Thank God there's a
You know,
democracy that
that's
we can use to, work on the hinges of, even if the hinges are quirky.
yeah, but we need the urgent action is an urgent call that he's making. And I don't know, the Attorney General needs to strap up, honestly,
He does.
because we can't keep, I mean, you're battling so many fronts. It takes very little to disintegrate a country, right?
I mean-
You're battling, and this is key, this is centric, this one is a major issue.
For the purpose of optics, just so that many people understand the powers that he has or the resources he has under his control, the Attorney General controls the legal system of the country.
He's responsible,
people who works under him.
yes, for managing it, right?
Yeah.
And in this particular instance, this whole crisis, the delivery of justice with respect to terrorism he has been leading that conversation, right? He has been leading that conversation along with other agencies of government. But who is going to sue this, I mean, because the sponsors are supposed to be, we've had people accuse governors, we've had people accuse big quote unquote men in society,
Yes.
right? So you need the government coming with its entire clout,
Yes.
and we don't see that happening.
And
So there's it just looks like a dress rehearsal for nothing.
Thank you. And it can be left at, just is supporting lip service. It should be acted
That-
upon, like
yes.
you said. Thank you for making that analogy to starting and ending a conversation.
Yeah.
If you announce something, see it to the end.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for that, Oyemi. The next story, we'll come back to this conversation as regards how it concerns us, the citizens, and service holding companies. It seems to me like a smaller aspect or smaller branch of a microfinance banking that it's under the supervision of the central bank from beginning to the end. But there are provisions that the CBN gave as to its governance and setup in terms of you having to have a major company with subsidiaries under it for it to operate. But please go through the story for us.
Okay. I'd like to say this is a story of congratulations to the CBN on the release of the guidelines for Payment System Management Department. All right. The director, Musa Jimo, did release this, and he had instructed money banks, deposit money banks, payment service providers, and financial institutions to take cognizance of the new license categorization for the Nigerian payment systems. It requires companies desirous of offering switch, processing services, mobile money services to set up the PSHC structure. Such activities of the subsidiaries are clearly delineated. Yes, that's a lot of English, right? But let me just break this down so that some of us can explain the gibberish, all right? Because that's a lot of
It's
fun.
not gibberish.
No, my point is it's a lot of financial
Terms,
terms.
terminology.
Yes.
Jargon, yeah.
Now, what are we referring to here? Under the financial systems, one of the biggest areas is payments. Payments simply, Ewa, I want to buy the necklace on you. How am I going to pay? I can
No,
pay
you can't
cash.
even buy it. It's not up for sale.
I can
Moving on.
transfer. She might also want to sell.
I know she doesn't
You know,
want to
she
sell.
wants to pay for her next,
Use another example.
etc. Now, the truth is, how do I pay? And this is the challenge that many
Yes.
Nigerians face. Okay, nationwide, and we've had so many innovations that have come in at different points in time, and some have succeeded, some have not. So what the CBN has done is to create enabling framework so that all players within the market, from the buyer to the seller to even the agencies in between that assist with this payment, operate. Now, you have issues of, for example, when you use your card, okay, you use a POS at someone's shop,
Yes.
and you have issues of, okay, it didn't go, okay, well, I was debited, but the merchant didn't receive a credit, or, well, some people say I don't use cards simply because, oh, there's a tax on it, or etc. They put all this into play, either whether it's the issuing bank or the acquiring bank, and those who process on behalf of where the debit is coming from. In terms of the merchants, they've tried to reduce the days. Those who play within the POS world, web purchases. Remember, for some time, a lot of companies abroad did not deal with Nigeria because by the time you put in your card, they'll tell you, no, we're
Yeah.
not dealing with this zone.
Yeah.
But recently, a lot of fintech innovators came in with some solutions. This is all the framework that brings this together. Two, both for e-commerce sales as well as USSD, mobile money, especially where the telcos have been itching to play in this game as well. Switching companies, which we all know have existed. So what I would say, like I said, this is congratulations, because Nigeria, as we are placed in terms as a developing nation, we kind of have some of the most developed financial systems in the world. And I'm sure many people don't agree with that or believe it, but it's true. Even abroad, you don't have switching systems that work as effectively as we have in Nigeria.
agree.
And I think one of the things that works for us is our population, our huge population, and how people need to get things done. Also, even in West Africa, I know for some time now, it was very difficult to pay for things that were done. If you want to make a purchase in Cotonou, you would go through a long, etc. So let's see how this plays out. What this does is also invites other players in the markets who exist to also come in and play to see how they can provide solutions. Two, it will drive not just e-commerce, but commerce as a whole. You can now sell to people anywhere, at all times, and they can pay you through the many options available without you losing your money. So I would ask SMEs to gear up. This is the time and season for you to make sales, not just within your location, but even if I'm in Sokoto or Meduguri, I can get paid.
I think it also adds to boosting governance and solidifying governance concerns within companies and giving SMEs, like you mentioned, a chance to expand.
Mm.
To grow a parent company and looking to develop subsidiaries and having a financial system within its framework
Yes.
to access funds easily, and probably reduces the bureaucracy in accessing funds through banks to CBN, being that they have a direct link through this payment service holding company.
Yes, they'll all work together.
To
It's a whole
central bank.
network of companies.
Thank you so much.
All right, I'm going to take this comment. It's a bit long, but I think it shares the experience of one of our listeners as with regards to the numerous road works in Lagos State. He says, I think the jam packing of all the road projects in the state at the same time might be a collaboration with the government and the thugs. I was going for a meeting in the cab from Marina to VI, and the thug confidently walked up to me and said, Oga, find me something before I collect what I want. This was 11 a.m. on the outer Marina route that leads from Akwongo flyover to the outer route that leads to Amadu Bello Way. The guy probably sized me up and seen I had a laptop and phone and was dressed in a jacket and tie in broad daylight. I had to squeeze some money in his hand and diplomatically tell him to manage as I didn't have cash on me. I was in shock. I could bet he was ready to do a smash and run, but got some reason, or for some reason decided to try subtle, to be subtle first. Tell me why any sensitive and emphatic government would expose her people to this much stress, risk, and inconvenience because they want to ramp up on infrastructural projects and without any plans to take care of all the inconveniences that will arise from the arrangement. Ian. I took Ian's comment because I had a very similar experience on Sunday, and I'm sure a number of people who are listening can identify with this. And the experience I had on Sunday was the second I was having in traffic, where someone would come to a dog would come to your window and ask you, give me something, almost as if it were the right. And then it were the right. And the one that happened just on Lekki Expressway, third roundabout, the guy hit my door, even though that the traffic moved. And the reason it is such a big security concern, it is hectic. We know we asked for infrastructural development, but don't say that, oh, you asked for it, right? We will give it to you. And then make life miserable, literally, for your citizens. There has to be a way out, and that's why and thank you, Ian, for sharing your experience as you mirror what a number of Lagosians are going through. I hope the authorities are listening. I hope they're putting measures in place to ensure that yes, these developments are going on, but the alternative plans,
The
heavy
management,
security,
the
yes,
management, because the
Better
management is
management.
actually the core of the implementation.
Absolutely.
If management is poor, then it's a burden. More
And
than
it's
yeah.
such knee-jerk reactions.
Yeah.
Not saying that this is a knee-jerk reaction, but it's such knee-jerk reactions. That's the reason why I and I clarified or requested that the
Yeah.
government please provide some rationale behind the announcement of 200,000 people to receive money funding in terms of palliative for COVID. How do you identify these people? What are the metrics you've used to carry out your assessments? All the monies you've disbursed before, how are they disbursed and who are the
Exactly.
least
Then
affected?
even interland travel, so people who are going into like inner city roads that are unsafe, things like that. All of that must just come into the conversation.
Absolutely. We need to go on a break now. When we come back, we take the rest of our stories this morning on Freshly Pressed 91.
This place is
I see,
boiling.
I see an interesting comment on the AG is not responsible
Can
for
this door
justice
open?
or something like that.
Yeah, sorry.
Eh? The door. It's hot.
Sorry.
In a few minutes, in 10 minutes. So,
Yeah, I saw that one. I wasn't sure
But
what the
that's,
comment.
that's not accurate. The AG of every state and the AG of the federation are responsible for justice
right.
because it's a crime. Terrorism is a crime.
All right, let's go. We're back.
Speaking of legal system, the Attorney General of the Federation, Malami, has inaugurated he has conducted the first inauguration of the Governing Council of the National Human Rights Commission since President Muhammadu Buhari assumed office in 2015. It's interesting that he's making this inauguration in his absence. But what are your thoughts, Yemi?
Well, this is something that has been on for a while, and if you recall, it was one of the major demands during the NSAS protest.
So another tick on the box.
It's another tick on the box. I like tick on the boxes because they're good, but I think tick on the box. We need to move away from tick on the boxes, the actual impact on the people, right? Because that's why we have these bodies, and they're only useful when they're functional, right? The NHRC has been said to be illegitimate for a long time because it was acting without its council. Now that it has its council, human rights is at the center of the conversation on a lot of things that we're doing, prosecuting criminals, terrorists, the insecurity issue, all of that. So you still have the story we took earlier on. They're talking about 400 sponsors that were suspected. We don't know if they've been arrested. We don't know whether they've been jailed and kept there for a long time. We still have NSAS protesters that are 9 months, that they claim at almost 9 months after, or when October, right? It's almost actually. And they're still in jail. They've not been charged. They've not been,
And the accusations of
extrajudicial killings
Yes.
everywhere. So we honestly need that kind of, the same way you said that Serap has taken agency for the Nigerian people. We need a human rights agency that is alive and ticking. So for me, it's a good development. But when I look to the story, I'm a little worried because I don't see things. They say, oh, central to human rights is a very important thing, but they're still having fundamental administrative issues
Yes.
like funding
Yes.
or structure, and even the commentary that I see from the Senate. Oh, the council does not seem to have federal character. Honestly, federal character, I know it's not a great idea that I may be sharing, but in my opinion, federal character was 1970. Now we need the conversation to focus on competence, because it doesn't matter the face of whoever is doing what. Nigerians need public goods, public value delivered to them so that they can live, so they can have dignity. Federal character is a conversation we need to begin to kill.
Yes.
No,
I know it's not
No, no, no.
it's not conventional,
From when
but
it
it's
devolved.
when
We are not that
it can-
developed.
but that is why. So let
our
us cast a
intelligence
vision.
is not that developed.
No, Devo, let us cast a vision that is different, because every time we are appointing people to office, every time we're making new, we're deliberating funding or spending of resources, we're not looking at the input to say that, okay, this input is qualified to give us the output we're looking at. We're talking about federal character. For me, I want to seed that in this conversation. Honestly,
Devo.
every time we're appointing people now, let us talk competence, because
All
that's
right.
how public value is delivered.
Okay, we're going to take this debate further during Lagos Talks 901, because this is a deep one. I know the voice wearing.
Yes, just endorse government.
Let's talk about the next story. Lagos reviews vehicle number plates, driving license rate, from the Punch newspaper. The general manager, Lagos State Motor Vehicle Administration Agencies, Mrs. Lakbe Kilanko, has said that their new rates. Now, your commercial plate number would be 18,750. Standard commercial number. License for 3 and 5 years will cost 10,350 and 15,450 respectively.
Well, this is more or less what I call it. It's not advertising, but they're announcing, because there are statutory fees that each and every one of us have to pay, especially for those in Lagos State. So the GM of the Lagos State Motor Vehicle Administration, Ms. Lakbe Kilanko, announced the revised rates as approved by the Joint Tax Board in Lagos State. Now, these revised rates address vehicle number plates, okay, that used to be, for standard and private commercial numbers, you're going to pay 18,750. Then also for driver's license, for 3 to 5 years, the one for 3 years is now 10,350, and the one for 5 years is 15,450. Ensure you get yours from an approved source. No need for agents, no need for racketeering, and hopefully they will not ask you for federal character when you go and buy.
You
Thank
can't just
you.
leave it.
Let's talk about federal character. D from Malausa has a comment on federal character.
He said it's very important for harmonious coexistence of such.
Please tell her.
I am
let me
not
just
saying
read
it
the
is
message.
You want
not.
Nigerians to fight, to go to war.
Hold on. Let's take the message.
Federal character is very important for harmonious coexistence of
Is
such
it?
a multicultural medley like Nigeria. Qualified people can be gotten from all parts of the country. Can I just add that
Okay.
from where Oyemi was coming from, if you work well, you don't collect bribe, you're not corrupt, you're seen as doing the job, people will pay less attention to where you're coming from.
That's my point.
Ethnicity.
Not
all
in
these
Nigeria. They
I
first
know-
ask for your ethnicity.
We all
Because
know
we don't
what
trust the
federal
government.
character
No, it's not
is.
government.
No, to be honest, let me land the point properly, right? We know that federal character is important, but for me, We need to start to grow the limbs of competence as the major pillar of our conversations when we're talking about the spending of or allocation of public
So,
resources.
like,
That's
can you
all I'm
say that you
saying.
can combine both?
You can.
Because you
You
can have people who are competent in the 30, I mean, in the different
you
Yes.
parts of.
can,
Can I
of
say this?
course.
This is my last statement on
Okay.
this, okay?
Okay.
We need to understand that Nigerians, cannot only think about yourself. The educated people in
I'm
Nigeria
not thinking about
form
myself.
5% of the
I'm not
population.
thinking about
The,
myself.
the remainder,
All right.
a million and 150 million people, are largely illiterate, ignorant, and will not apply those things that you have just
Which is
said.
why your principal, I'm not going to call the name, which is why your principal said in an interview in an international TV that your intelligence ends when your education ends. How can you say that?
And
to
that's why
people?
we need to cast new vision. And that's
All
what I
right.
am saying.
And we're going to cast new vision on the next story.
Okay.
Further character conversation at 8:10. All right, just a few comments because I had just a few minutes,
Yes,
and just
please.
want us to take at least these two stories. DSS arresting 5 for conniving with cousin to abduct 6-year-old boy for Salah cash. This is in the Punch newspaper. Operatives of the Department of State Services have arrested 5 suspected kidnappers of a 6-year-old boy in Gadon, Kaya, Gwale, local government area of Kano State.
Our criminals are getting younger.
Yes, let me
Our
tell the age
criminals,
of the
yeah,
people. I think they were between 16 to 18
yeah.
years old. Yeah.
And what that tells you is it's an economic conversation. This, as much as it sounds like a security issue, for me, it's an economic conversation, right? It takes us back to where we are, the people. Our talent, we talk about our demography being one of the most boisterous in Africa. We have the potential. We need to urgently convert this potential to power, right? Good power. Otherwise, that power that is latent in that youth population that's unemployed, undeployed, untriggered will take us down. You have 9-year-olds, 10-year-olds committing heinous crimes across the country, right? And it brings the country, how do you even have a justice conversation for minors? We've not even finished with the adults, right? We've not finished handling that. Now you're having concentrations of minors involved in crime. This thing has to trigger, I mean, it's not just government. All of us need to collectively come and sit at different tables and begin to solve this thing. Our value system, what's going on? Our social responsibility by parents, by schools, by mentors, what's going on? Poverty, because it's foiling it. What can be done? Because if your criminals are getting younger, there's a lot that's saying. It's a destructive part. So I don't even want to delve into what DSS is doing or not doing, because you will see this story replete everywhere in every state. It's just a different agency of government. Is police, it's EFCC.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But our criminals are getting younger, and that's the red flag there for me.
Absolutely.
There needs to be something
Which is
done.
why Falana was asking that question.
Yeah.
If you don't prosecute the older ones that have committed
Yes.
the same crime, and you're setting a precedent for
Oh,
the
yeah.
younger ones.
Yes.
And they're getting bold.
Yes. They kidnapped the boy because of money for Salah. That's basically what this story is about, and there's 16 to 18.
Let's not even go into that.
Thank you very much, Oyeyemi. Things to think about. Very quickly, Devo, in a minute. INEC warns endless court orders may jeopardize 2023 polls.
Yes, INEC is declaring its frustration with the legal system that's interfering with the timetables and the preparations for the 2023 elections. And this is coming from what is currently ongoing in the Anambra state, where there have been series of counter court's positions on just the primaries. You haven't even gotten into the main one, and this has delayed their position. And what they're saying is that this is why they're committed to electronic use or application of technology for elections to be able to increase efficiency and transparency. So they're begging on the NBA and the National Judicial Council to intervene, that our elections are becoming more about courts and lawyers than about the will of the Nigerian people. And that is a bad omen that we all need to look out for. Why is it that we are not able to organize ourselves to the point that at the end of the day, we just cannot come out with a position, even as a party? And I mean, if you can't even organize that, you would really understand the fight behind federal character and competence. This is where it starts.
All right. Thank you. You had to bring that in, didn't you?
Yep.
All right. We have a comment from Ian to wrap up.
Ian says, let's look at some examples in the spirit of the last statements. Dora Queenly, she was so good that no one was debating her ethnicity. Her competence was shouting and she was just quiet. Have a good day, guys. Ian, thank you.
All right, I'm going to end on this positive note, and then I think we should emphasize on this debate because a number of people want to speak about federal character, whether to eliminate it or to continue with it as a system of allocating jobs
Roles
or
and
funding.
stuff,
Yes.
yes.
Federal government donates 5 million naira to college students for inventing monitoring devices for air and water pollution to students of Maris College in Abuja. We must celebrate these wins in Nigeria. So on one hand, we're talking about young people kidnapping a boy, a 6-year-old, and on another hand, we're talking about young people inventing, monitoring devices. So it's good for us to balance that. Thank you very much to our analysts for today, Oyemi Manuel and Divo Okore. If you can, maybe you want to join us for a big debate at 8:10 for federal character.
Bro, are you here?
Give us about 10 minutes of your time, please. And for all those who are listening to us, please do join us for Lagos Talks 981. Obviously, it's going to be a special one because we're going to be debating federal character as well as other stories that's come up in the news this morning. Stay tuned.
Interesting.
Templars. It's like you've not dealt with government before.
It's not like I haven't. I'm not speaking naively, Devo.
You've
I'm
not
not
dealt with
speaking
government
naively.
before.
Except
I
you
know
want to
this
listen to
thing.
Divo and...
Do you understand that the country is polarized because of federal character?
I know that. But the truth is, despite what is going on, we need to have these conversations.
Okay, let me ask you
as
something.
well.
Do you throw your